ABBY. What's up, Abby?
Hi, how are you?
I'm partying, dude. What about you?
Just hanging out.
That's what y'all do in Denver.
Right.
That was a good loaded weed joke. All right, so what's up?
Yeah. So I am actually calling because
please tell me it's about weed.
A little.
Fantastic.
Looking for a little bit of guidance on how to balance sobriety and responsible substance use as a young person living in an area where substance use is very a big gray area on how to use it, what's responsible, what's over consuming, all that type of.
How old are you?
I'm 23.
Good God, you're so far ahead of the game.
I
wish I'd asked these questions when I was 23. You're like light years ahead of most people. And did you have something happen that scared you, or is this just something that's been weighing on you?
There's not like a real specific event. I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa, and drinking is a very big thing there. So I left Iowa and was kind of figuring out how I felt about it, and then moved to a state where marijuana was legal and started messing around with that a little bit more and started bartending, and just noticed that I had a pattern of not being good at controlling how much I am consuming of
say your first thing. I think you told the truth, and then you were wise enough to erase it really fast and say the other thing. Say what you said at the beginning.
That I grew up around.
No, not that. You said I'm not able to control it. I mean, I just
Yeah. I feel like I lose control when I am around those.
There you go. Okay, and so I think that's a place I want to start. What does drinking or weed? What does it get you? And I'm not fishing here because there's those. Yeah. They can provide some good things. What do they get you?
I feel like a good mood, more social, and less judgment from my peers.
Tell me about that.
I just, a lot of the people that I grew up around and hang out with drink a lot or smoke a lot. And I find that when I surround myself with people that do not consume as much, I am really good about consuming. But if I am around a group of people or a specific person or an environment where I feel like my expectation is to drink, I am thinking oh, what are these people going to say if I don't? Are they going to make fun of me? Or am I going to look like I'm too good for them?
Man. So there's a couple of things here. Let me I'm going to write down a quick note. So back when I was a dean of students at a law school, I did a student survey every year, and I think it was out of Southern Illinois, and I forgot the acronym for it, but I would hand the survey out to all the students, and I would leave. All incoming 1L students, first-year law students, I would leave, and they would take this, and I would never touch it or see it, and they would ship it to another university to run all the data. But then they would send me back all of the answers. And I would get all the first-year law students back in the big theater and in the same room, and I would read the data back to them. And it was a case in social norming, which is just nerd talk for, I want to tell you what everyone else is thinking, and also I want to tell you what everyone else is doing. And I was always stunned by the gap. Two particular gaps caught me every single time. One was the gap between how much everybody thought everybody was drinking and smoking versus how much people actually were drinking and smoking versus how much people actually wanted to be drinking and smoking. And the gap was always, everybody assumed that all of their classmates were drinking and smoking way more than was actually happening in real life. And almost across the board, nobody wanted to be drinking and smoking as much as they were. So that was a big one. The second one, and I'm not reading into what you're saying, I'm just putting this out there because you talked about it makes you like feel a little bit funnier. It's a social lubricant, right? It makes the interactions a little bit funnier. It makes you be the person you imagine you wish you could be, right?
Yes.
The stat that used to break my heart, especially as the father of a young son and of a young daughter, was how often people drank so that they could end up in more sexual situations. And I looked at that, and I used to always tell students, if you have to drink to override your body's innate systems that are trying to protect you so that you can become something that you think other people want you to be, please listen to your body, your sober body. Okay, so that's dad lecture number one. Dad lecture number two is this: you will, and man, I wish I had the stats in front of me. I think over the next 5 to 10 years, you will be within about 15% of the net worth of the people you spend the most time around. You will be similar in values. You will be similar in how much you read. You'll be similar in kids and marriage, etc. And the reason that's important is you just laid out two really important paths for you. You have, like most people, if they're honest, not everybody, but most find that when I get going with drinking or with smoking weed or whatever the vice is, some people it's just watching one Netflix series and then Netflix is like, hey, just you sit there, I'll just start the next one for you. And you're like, okay, let's just do another one. Whatever your vice is. Once you get going, you've established, man, it's just tough. Stop. You've also established, man, if I'm around people who aren't drinking and smoking, I don't do it that much. And when I'm with people who are partying and going down the rabbit hole, I get over my head. And for me, as someone who cares about you, I want you to hear you've got one path that you're like, hey, this is going to end up in a place that's potentially, statistically, going to give me a better outlook on my life and better outcomes in my life. And then there's another path. You're a bartender. You can see, right? You know where this could also go, right?
Yeah, and that was seeing that. I was like, I don't want to be 55, 60, 70 hanging out at a bar every night, getting along with all the 20-year. Like, I don't want to.
There you go.
That's not the future that I want.
Yeah, so you've got a ringside seat too. You got to lean over the edge and be like, oh, this is the next 40 years of my life if I don't make some changes.
Yeah.
And so the question I always want people to ask when they're like, hey, should I smoke weed? Should I drink? All that kind of stuff. Obviously, legal age and legality, all that stuff comes into play. But assuming you're of legal age and you're a place where everything's whatever, I always want people to ask, what is it getting you? And if it allows you to not feel what your body's trying to tell you, then stay away. If it's allowing you to duct tape over feelings of hopelessness or loneliness or I'm just bored or I need to go back to school, I need to go do some stuff, I need to call my mom, and I'm just going to have a drink, then pass. And I'll also tell you, if you're with friends and you're like who are going to be responsible and there's just kind of a social thing, everybody has a drink or two, and then knock your lights out. But you have to know for you why I'm doing this, and especially I'm doing something I don't want to do. And I think that's important life for your sex and intimacy in your future, for your professional life, for what you want to do like as a working mom, as someone who doesn't want to have kids, like whatever it is as you look forward, I just don't want to do this. I don't want you at 23 practicing. How do I do things that I don't really want to do, but there's a lot of people around, so they kind of expect it of me. So how does that sound? I know I sound like an old man telling you, like, in my day, we walked uphill both ways. But how does that hit you?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the thought processes I've been going through recently. Am I using this to feel different, or like, do I have a purpose? Am I doing this because I want to or because I feel like I need to? And It's been hard sometimes because I feel like when I'm out, I get like overwhelmed by like, I don't know how to assess this right now. So I'm just going to do what's like the least resistance and move forward.
Abby is somebody who's sat with, I can't even count how many young 18 to 25-year-old women I've sat with behind closed doors. That way of entering into a social situation, like, scares me to death for you.
Yeah, it's put me in some pretty compromising situations, and I don't want to be in those anymore. And like, I know that I'm the only one who can make sure that I am not.
I'm so proud of you. So can I give you the advice I would give anybody? Myself, I've taken this advice. My kids, my friends, I would give anybody this advice. If you're trying to balance or trying to dig into, am I having a drink because it's fun? Or am I having a drink because like I'm trying to cover up something unhealthy? We have reached a point when most of the uber successful people I know have almost entirely stopped drinking or have cut back dramatically. And most of it is simply because people are using wearables and they're seeing how devastating it is to their sleep or how devastating it is to their dietary patterns. And so you're asking this question in a season. If you'd asked this question 20 years ago, I would have laughed at you. You're asking this question now. And so here's my challenge to you. Go 60 days and just don't have a drink.
Okay.
And don't smoke. And then when people ask you, like, be like, no, I'm off the sauce for 60 days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you like, no, dude, it's messing up my sleep. It's messing up my sleep. It's like, and it gives you a little off ramp, but just give it a shot and see how you feel and see what situations you don't find yourself in and feel yourself saying, no, I don't want to go. I'm not coming back to your apartment. I'm not doing this. I'm not going over here. And find yourself beginning to I don't know, become stronger. Is that the right word?
Yeah. So I did that in January. I only did it for 30 days.
Okay.
So I will definitely do it for 60 because I've been kind of toying around with it. But towards the end of the year, I was like smoking every day and drinking pretty regularly and like bartending. We clean up the bar and then the bar back and I would have a drink and I'd be there until like 5 a.m. chatting and I was just over it.
Yeah.
So I went the month of January completely sober, like no anything. And I really enjoyed it. But I guess I did miss like the social aspect of it a little bit.
Totally.
And I guess I don't know how to, I definitely do want to try it for 60 days to try and see how it feels for longer, but I don't know how to know when it's like appropriate. I mean, I guess questioning myself of like what's my intention.
Here's the magic. You can't just remove it without putting something else in its place.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm like you. I like going out. I like having fun. I'm going to a comedy show tomorrow night. Kelly had a big birthday bash that I went to, and I just feel terrible the next morning if I have a drink. So I go and I have club soda. I go and I have Diet Cokes most of the time.
Yeah.
And after a long stretch of being on the road, and I finally had my last event, I had a beer in a airport the other day, and it was awesome. Right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't trying to cover up anything. It was I've completed this task, and I had put on the calendar, I'm going to do that and have some gummy candies. Like I'd put it out there, right? And so you have to replace, okay, where are you going to get social time? And I'll tell you, if the only place you get social time is 3 drinks in till 5 a.m., those conversations when you're 23 feel heavy and weighty and magical, but they're not. They're kind of, you know that, right? They're kind of lame. Somebody's hitting on you the whole time. It's just not great. And so,
I always woke up and was like, God, why did I say?
Yeah, just go to bed. And then you start replaying, what did I say? Did I say something? Yes, exactly. So if the only time you have social connection is from 2:30 a.m. till 5 a.m., having free drinks at the bar you work at, I'm going to tell you, as somebody who cares about you, you got to do a better job of making friends.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And you work at night, so that means you got to do it during the day, which is even weirder, right?
Right. Yeah. I have realized that it's harder to make friends as an adult.
It's
After
the
moving away from all my
worst,
friends.
Abby. It's the worst. Yes, it's the worst. And by the way, I'll tell you this. And this, you didn't even ask this, but this is just me putting it out into the universe. If you've gone out and done your thing, and you decide to go back home and be around friends and family that you care and love about, you didn't lose. You actually won. You got to go see the world and realize, you know what, this is actually more important to me than something else. Then like, yeah, I'm gonna go see man, you know what is really important to me? Friends, family, connection, community. But again, asking yourself, where do I have community and connection? Where do I have laughter and joy? Do I want to be a bartender for the rest of my life? If not, dude, you're 23, let's get on it. Let's go take some classes. Let's go to school. Let's go become an electrician, whatever it is you want to do out in the world. But let's begin to ask ourselves, where do we want to be at 27? Where do we want to be at 29? And more importantly, who do I want to be at 27? And do I want to really be over my head? Because I've proven to myself, man, this, like, having a drink feels good, smoking feels good, but I don't become the best version of myself, and I don't become who I want to be. And you've seen it. You've seen the 60 and 70-year-olds, the 50-year-olds hanging out with 20-year-olds at a bar trying to be cool. So let's create an alternative vision. Let's follow that. I'm proud of you for being 23 and asking these questions. You're way ahead of the game. You're way ahead of the game. Let's go 60 days. Anybody can white knuckle something for 30 days. 60 days, and it starts to become a way of being, and you really have to challenge yourself and ask hard questions. Let's take 60 days and then call me back. We'll have you back on. I want to see how it's going and what you're doing to make connection.